Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing fantastic today. Uh, hadn't done a video on BTC fundamentals in a long time. Wanted to talk about BTC fundamentals and just share my opinion on exactly why Bitcoin is so important and primarily why the value of Bitcoin is going to continue to rise and why it's probably going to rise, you know, I'm going to say astronomically. I have a Bitcoin target that is higher than most people would seriously like to consider. So I won't even tell you what my Bitcoin target is, but it is astronomically high. I won't give you a number, but it's high. It's high. It's as high as other insane numbers you've heard. So let's talk about that. Why is that possible? Why might I think it's probable? Why might you think it's probable? So I just want to show first just a nice uh, picture of BTC from somewhat of a long-term perspective. BTC's been around for so long, but really people are jumping on board now, and we just kind of want to see where we've been. So earlier in 2020, we were down in the $6,000 and $7,000 area, and then we were able to move, a really quite large move. This would be an exponential move. This thing goes from 7,000, beyond the 30s, beyond the 40s, beyond the 50s, and the 60s, all in one go, with the old high being, almost imperceivable here at 19,000. So we're talking about triple the returns of the last run. This is something crazy. Maybe that helps. So why is this happening? And can this continue, and how far can it continue? So in order to figure out what's happening with Bitcoin, we actually have to switch gears and see what's happening with the US dollar. Bitcoin, as all assets, are valued in some sort of currency. What are you trading it for? What are you denominating your asset in? And this is in the US dollar. I mean, you have to know what the US dollar is doing in order to know the value of Bitcoin. If the value of the US dollar is rising, then it will essentially weaken the price of Bitcoin. If the value of US dollar is falling, then this will strengthen the price of Bitcoin because, it's just an equal and opposite reaction. There's nothing fantastic about that. That's just how it works. It's a numerator and denominator. It's just that simple. So, how many of you know what the US dollar is doing? Does anyone know how to value the US dollar? The US dollar index is the standard way to value the US dollar. We're going to take a look at that here and let's check it out here. All right. So this is just recent. Just recently, this is since 2020, the US dollar's had a large decline. Okay, it's had a large decline. So that would entail that Bitcoin would be rising. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. US dollar is so huge, it loses some value. This isn't just an indiscriminate amount of value. This is a lot of value. It moved from 102 down into the 90s. So about 10%. About 10% of assets that were valued in US dollar, they're now 10% lower. It's 10%. That's a 10% loss. That's a real 10% loss. Everything less. Houses in the United States, less. How much? 10% less. Your jeans that are on your body, how much less? 10% less. How about that mall that is sitting in the middle of Green Hills? The whole thing, 10% less. Your wages, 10% less. Everything fell by 10%. Everything. So when everything in the world falls by 10% in value, that's not going to be good. So what are the ways in which a losing dollar alleviates itself in the real world economy? The real world economy, you have Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin, so many charts, I'm sorry. So Bitcoin is going to rise in this environment. It's going to rise. Now, this is a much farther and deeper chart than simply the last year, but you get the hypersensitivity that Bitcoin now experiences when there's weakness in the dollar. So why is there weakness in the dollar? Why is there strength in Bitcoin? Why are the two, so correlated? Well, everybody knows that the US dollar is being printed in an incessant way. We're going to take a look at the Federal Reserve balance sheet and just get, a little bit familiar with just how much money the Federal Reserve is printing into the economy. So this is a nice chart. We can see along the bottom here is time. Here is how many trillions of dollars. This is trillions of dollars. And assets here have been rising to the tune of $2 trillion in 2010, to the tune of $4 trillion here in 2016. And then in 2020, we went from 4 almost to 8. It hasn't even been a year, and we have doubled all of the spending that America has ever done, like previously. Like we had all that shit going on through 9/11. We had the greatest depression since sliced bread. We had everything terrible, but somehow we have coronavirus, and we double the spending for a fucking flu. So the greatest depression since sliced bread wasn't this bad. Oh yeah, .com bubble wasn't this bad. 2009 mortgage crisis and 9/11. So we're having everything and the kitchen sink thrown at us, and we rack up a lot of debt dealing with all of that over the course of, get this, 20 years. It was 20 years worth of problems, and we fixed the problem with debt. We get coronavirus, we double that problem instantly in 1 year. Most people can't wrap their heads around how much money that is. It's an insane amount of money. Anyone who is well versed in finance, international finance, corporate finance, any finance whatsoever, shit, if you can balance your checkbook, you can look at this chart and say, holy fucking shit, what the hell's going on? And the system continues to operate normally, but that is not normal. You do not have any budget that suddenly you spend 20 times as much, meaning you went 20 years spending this much money, and then in the next year you spend 20 years worth of money. You are jumping the gun. Let me tell you, you're jumping the gun. Like whatever you think is going on, you're spending way too much money based on something you've been observing for a year. I'm sure you were told that everyone was going to die, the whole planet. That didn't happen. Did it happen? Did it happen? No. Most people are just as alive as they were before. The death rate of the planet has not gone up at all. You might ask yourself, why is that? I don't know. It's outside the scope of this conversation. But what is true is that the Federal Reserve is spending an unbelievable amount of money in the sense of printing money and then using that to buy public services like unemployment insurance. Perhaps it's investing into small businesses, helping to pay payrolls. However altruistic that may sound, it doesn't make a bit of difference. It doesn't make a bit of difference. It is still debt that is still increasing the balance sheet. The recipients of the debt have always been the citizens. They've always been the recipients of the debt. That doesn't, that's not a bad thing, but that doesn't make the debt go away. Most of the people that are borrowing the money it's hard to say whether or not they're American. It's almost impossible to say if they're American. Many of them are not American for sure. How many of them are American, it's hard to say. You just can't tell. These things are very opaque. However, perhaps a good bit of them are American, but are they even keeping their investment returns here in the United States? Again, extremely opaque. You can't tell. If they were trying to drain the United States of all of its money and all of its value, it would look just like this. This is exactly what it would look like. No doubt about it. This is what it would look like. Printing all of the people's money in trillions of dollars at a time, while everyone is so confused they don't know what that means. And then people are absconding with this money, taking it to overseas destinations, taking it to island paradises. I won't name any country to disparage any country's banking system, but you know who you are. You know who accepts loose money. So that is what's happening. In that environment, the likely consequence is that the U.S. dollar will fall. Let's take a look at exactly how this looks over a much longer period of time. However, if we back out and we look at something, say like out to the weeks, right? Let's look. This chart looks pretty crazy. I understand. You probably can't read it. Probably looks insane. Let's try to make this a little bit easier to see. There we go. All right. So generally speaking, the U.S. dollar trend. Whoops. No. So anyhow, let's kill it. The U.S. dollar trend, any way you slice it and dice it, is down. So the entire United States of America has been losing value since 1986. That's the high, 1986. We had a really good run going up to 2002. Yep. And then most recently, we didn't have such a good time between 2014 and 2022, and it would appear, since we are exhausting ourselves, either way, the trend is down. Another way to isolate a trend is between two lines. You can see the trend, friends, is down. So when the trend of the US dollar's value is down, Bitcoin's value is going to mechanically rise. Just for shits and giggles, let's go ahead and put Bitcoin also out into weeks. Yes, that's kind of hilarious. You can see Bitcoin's trajectory is not able to be charted with a line. It can only be charted with a parabola, something that has exponential growth. That is the definition of exponential growth. Y equals x squared. Beautiful. So, why? Why Bitcoin accelerating exponentially? Why? Answer: Bitcoin is going to replace the US dollar. No one likes that the US dollar is being printed ad nauseum by a bunch of people that are under no control. They have no control, and they're signaling clearly that they are never going to stop printing. Why would anyone want their money to be that? Why would anyone want that as their money? That doesn't make any sense. So people are quietly realizing that Bitcoin has risen to the point that it is a real contender. No one thinks Bitcoin cannot be international money. That question is gone. It is off the table. Bitcoin is international money. It is international money. And over 100 large corporations are accepting Bitcoin now, planning to do business in Bitcoin. This is not going to reverse itself. And the governments, if they were going to step in and remove this as a payment method, they would have done it already. They're not. The governments are going to likely launch their own cryptocurrency and hope that you will compete, that they will be able to compete with Bitcoin, and then after they have launched their own cryptocurrency, perhaps outlaw Bitcoin many years down the road, after they have launched their own and it has reached credibility. They will be the last movers, and they're not necessarily unhappy to be last movers. They tax everything. So they'll be taxing Bitcoin. They're taxing anyone who's making money off Bitcoin. This is not going just necessarily not helping them out. This is helping them out. It's not as beneficial as having their dollar go well, but I mean, that cat's out of the bag. They've got a strategy for that, and they're dumping it. They're dumping the dollar all over everyone, and that's their strategy. And they don't look like they're going to change it for any reason. Why would they? It's working fantastically well. No one has any fucking idea what they're doing. So in the meantime, the other people who do know what they're doing are buying Bitcoin. So that is my number one reason to buy Bitcoin, and my number one reason why Bitcoin is a fantastic a purchase. It's not an investment. It's a waking up to a reality. Like, your U.S. dollars are going to be worth less. They've been being worth less now for almost 50 years. For almost 50 years, this thing has been going down in value. You can't even see the rest of that chart. You can, depending on what measure you want to use, but at least 30 years of straight decline. This is not some new thing. U.S. dollar declining, all assets become more expensive. This is the Federal Reserve's mandate. They create inflation, they devalue the dollar. This is what they do. This is their job. If you don't know that's their job, that's your problem. But that's their job. That's what they do. So buy some Bitcoin, buy some real estate, buy some stocks, buy whatever you have to. But the money printing is going out of style, and owning actual dollars is not a good idea. But exchanging dollars for assets is a really good idea. Own something. Buy an old used Cadillac. Go buy an old couch. Go buy buckets of steel. Anything is going to be worth more and continues to be worth more than U.S. dollars. Bitcoin is the one that accelerates the highest because it represents an actual competitor that is likely to succeed, and everyone agrees with it, and no one's really having a problem with it. The entire world is like loving Bitcoin. No one has a problem with Bitcoin except governments. Every other country and independent people are like, Bitcoin, pretty good idea. I like this. It's a good thing. And then they have, plenty of other cryptocurrencies as well that are doing other things. But trust me, everybody knows that the Mac Daddy of Mac Daddies at the bottom of the entire $1 million pyramid is Bitcoin. So everyone's going to own some Bitcoin. It's going to go up there high, real high. So purchase some, buy some on pullbacks. This isn't investment advice, actually. In fact, don't buy on pullbacks. Just do whatever you want to at any time that you want to. I happen to post charts about when I think there's going to be a pullback, so you can prepare with perhaps months in advance, so you can get all of your financial ideas in order and perhaps be ready for a fantastic opportunity. I think one is coming here shortly. We may have missed one, but I think we're going to get yet another one here. Well, I don't think we missed it, but others may have missed it. I didn't miss it. But so there's perhaps another one. Could be a nice pullback. Hope that clarifies why I love Bitcoin, why I think everybody should get some Bitcoin, because, well, you're probably going to lose money if you don't. It's really that easy of a relationship, financial transaction. You should get some Bitcoin, put it in your bank account or your wallet, and just hold on to it, because it'll help you beat the inflationary problem of the U.S. dollar being printed to fight COVID-19, which will probably continue for the next 20 to 30 to 50 years. I don't think COVID-19 is going anywhere. It might change some names, COVID 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 50, who knows? It'll just never end. The flu vaccine never worked. We never beat that. So I don't really have any confidence we'll beat this. Why would I? We've been doing flu vaccine for 15 years. This is pretty much the same thing. It's a flu vaccine. It's a flu, little deadlier flu, but it's kind of a flu. And buy some Bitcoin. Hope that helps.